Welcome back to Directorial Disputes, the podcast where we give our unpopular film opinions and battle it out to decide whether they're deserving of their unpopular label. I'm James.
I'm Josh.
And we're back again for another round of unpopular opinions. And this week it comes from me. And I think this one is going to be an interesting one because there are some strong opinions, certainly on the other side of the argument.
I hate you.
As we can see, they're already out in force. We're ready
wrong.
to shout at each other. And I'm just going to go out and say it. This week's unpopular opinion is that Tenet is Christopher Nolan's worst film.
Disgraceful.
It's certainly gonna irritate some people, gonna rattle some cages. You know, it's gonna upset some people. But it's an opinion that I hold, and it's an opinion that I genuinely believe in a big way. So now is the time that I get a period of time uninterrupted. Josh has muted his mic, and the stage is mine. I get a period of time to tell you why Tenet is Christopher Nolan's worst film. And I think I'm going to have to start by saying Christopher Nolan is not a bad director. He's not a bad director. And do you know what? Tenet isn't a bad film. You know, there's some wonderful moments in that film. There's some brilliant set pieces. You know, the man crashed a plane. That's crazy. The man crashed a plane. The opening of the film, lovely. The music, lovely. But it's still his worst film. Tenet comes from a director who seems to have been trying to make his films progressively more complex. We've gone from, Inception, which deals with dreams and different levels. And you know what? It's okay. You know, people watch that film. Remember when the film first came out, people watched it and they went, "Oh, it's a bit confusing." But you watch it and you go, "Actually, no, I'm with this. I get what's happening. I know where they are. I know what they're doing." Then we go to Interstellar, arguably Christopher Nolan's best film. A film that deals with some of the most complex topics you've ever heard of. The film that got over 20 scientific papers out of it. You know, a film that is dealing with real life complexities, but somehow Tenet still goes a step too far. It is a step too far, and it's so complex. It's needlessly complex, in fact. Needlessly complex is Tenet. And I think all of that boils down to the hope that viewers just accept the film's logic. You know, the moment that we meet the condescending character who explains to our protagonist the nature of these reverse weapons, in which she actually says, and I have taken note here, no small talk, nothing to reveal who we are or what we do, which is a little on the nose, but that's a side point. We meet that character, and we're just told the bullet's going reverse. It's a reverse bullet. Okay, why is that? Something nuclear, something radioactive. Something radioactive's done that. Oh, all right. What? And then there's the lovely scene where our protagonist, who I don't even know the name of, and that's how bad Tenet is. I don't remember his name, and I watched the film earlier today. He's told to shoot the bullet at the wall, and he makes the classic line, "The chamber's empty." And so he shoots the bullet, and then out of nowhere there's some mumbo jumbo about the fact that it's already happened and he's got to catch the bullet, not shoot it. It sounds lovely, makes no sense at all, absolutely no sense. And so I think while that is the main point, the idea that we are just expected to accept the realities of this film, I think there are some other issues at play here. We've got a film that's all over the place geographically. Really, we're in one place 1 minute, and then the next scene he's walking down the street and he's in London. It's hard enough to keep track of where he is, let alone the nature of reverse technology. And I think equally the attempt to ground the film in reality, which is perfectly fine, but it just means that they've given names that are needlessly complicated to things. The villain is from a place called Starsky 12. Why? Just give it a place name. Give it a place name that's simple and understanding, so I don't feel really stupid watching this film. And that might be the case. It might be the case that I am just incredibly stupid, and that's why I think this is Christopher Nolan's worst film. But I think it is. There are some incredible films out there that Christopher Nolan has made. He's made we've got Dunkirk, Interstellar, Dark Knight Rises. We'll leave that one. Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Inception, Memento. The list goes on. They're all incredible films. And then there's just Tenet, which is a better film than I could ever make. But it's still Christopher Nolan's worst film.
Is the absolute rubbish over? Am I good to talk now?
Say what you will.
There's a lot I have to say there.
Oh, I am ready.
I think I need to preface this by saying that Tenet is my favourite Christopher Nolan film. I could be in any mood and watch this film. Time of recording, I'm not in the best of moods, but you know what? I messaged James after watching this film and went, you know what? I love this film.
To which I spat out my drink and walked past him.
Where to start?
Yeah,
First of all,
I did say quite a lot. I have a lot to say.
So first of all, where you say you don't even know the protagonist's name, his name is the protagonist. It's
again, needlessly complicated.
Right, I get that.
Call him Stephen.
I thought that to begin with, but when this is a film about espionage and it's a film about spy work, it's a code name.
See,
right?
Here's the thing. I take your point, and I understand that. And I feel like a lot of your argument is going to be, this is a spy film. It's complex because spies are complex. Right. It's not simple being a spy. But you know what? I'm not a spy. I'm a pleb viewer who needs it just dotted out for me. I need my hand held. And you know what? He's not holding my hand, and I don't like it.
I was gonna say it's very. He's not guided. I guess with like Interstellar, I've not seen Interstellar. I need to say that. But from what I know of Interstellar, it's complex, but it kind of guides you through, right? Right?
That would be one point I'd make, is that I think Interstellar guides you through, but I would say Interstellar is a more complex film than
Tenet is. I was kind of gonna basically say that Interstellar is kind of like when you're learning how to ride a bike and your parents are kind of holding onto the back seat, whereas Tenet is you're 4 years old, they've stuck you in the seat of a Ford Fiesta and they've sort of dropped you off a hill going towards oncoming traffic.
And does that sound like an enjoyable experience?
You know what? Yeah, I love that. Obviously, no, and I feel like that's the main part of my argument of why this is such a really good experience. Is I can't sum it up better than someone has already summed up how I feel about this film better than I can. So, the YouTuber Ben from Canada basically outlines the fact that Tenet is kind of a game. It's a brain teaser. You need to watch it over and over again, and you pick up on so many different things. It's an experiment, basically. It's Christopher Nolan doing that, reenacting that bit from Always Sunny. He's got the stuff all over the wall. He's got the lines, and then he's like, "All right, you work it out. All the clues are there. You work it out." And I really like that, and because a lot of his films are like Memento is like the key example of that. And yeah, okay, he didn't do it as well as Memento, but
and you know what? Memento makes sense, and that's the
so
thing.
Does this?
I feel. No. Don't come at me and act like you didn't have to watch a YouTube video explaining Tenet.
I didn't. I got this film the first time I saw it.
For sure. Big brain, 200 IQ Josh over there.
I watched Rick and Morty.
I think here's the thing. It feels like Tenet somehow is in the very backwards, in that it feels like it's Christopher Nolan's first film, and it goes in with the theme. It's backwards. He's doing it backwards. It feels like Tenet should have come before things like Inception, Memento, and Interstellar. We've got bold, confusing topics, but it feels very out of character, because it feels like Christopher Nolan hasn't worked out how to get these really bold ideas in his head into a digestible format on the screen. And in things like Interstellar, again, we're dealing with real space theory. We're dealing with physics, actual physics. And you know what? Physics blows my mind. It's maths, but harder, and I can't do either of those things. So, the fact that I could come out of Interstellar and go, that made complete sense. That made enough sense for it to be enjoyable is great. I come out of Tenet and I go, what? And I feel like there's so many moments in Tenet where I'm sat there and I'm going, this is really cool. But why are they doing this?
What parts? What
Why do
parts
they
were you
crash
sad-
the plane?
Why do they crash the plane to get into
Yeah.
the art, like the art?
Why do they have to
Thing.
crash the plane to do that?
Because that was just their plan of getting in.
What's the bit at the end? Why are they in the desert? What
Why are they in
doing
the
at
desert?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Right, so that was oh my god, I forgot his name.
Point proven.
Anton.
Who's Robert
Is
Pattinson?
it
Who's
Neil?
that?
It's
Who's
Neil.
Neil? Who's
It's
Neil?
his friend from the future.
His
He's
friend
come
from
back.
the future.
Yeah, it's his friend from the
Uh-huh.
future that he like they're in the same
Uh-huh.
thing, and then he's come back to help him.
And do you know what?
First time
This is how wrong I got this film. My belief was that Robert Pattinson was the son.
Hey,
Yeah.
how did you?
And do you know what? What do you mean how?
How did he had like 2 scenes with Kat? How did you make that connection?
Josh, I'm expected to just understand that bullets can go backwards and I have to catch them in a gun.
Right.
Why couldn't he just be the son?
Hold up. So the whole they don't explain how it works. I think, in a sense, it kind of works because the protagonist doesn't know either. He doesn't know. He's just going along with it. He's just like, oh, okay, sure. That's how this. Well, he's just thrown into it, the same as us. So the fact that we don't get an explanation totally makes sense to me. That's just how this world works. Yeah, fire being cold when you're inverted doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Looks cool.
I think what happened with this film is that Chris Nolan went, backwards shots would be cool, wouldn't it? Imagine a fight but backwards. That'd be sick. And you know what? The scenes are pretty cool. Especially when there's that big brain moment when you go, oh my god, they're fighting themselves backwards. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it still makes no sense.
But the plot does make sense.
But it doesn't. And here's the thing.
What do you mean?
I'm not here to shout about the fact that Tenet doesn't make sense. I'm here to shout about the fact that it's Christopher Nolan's worst movie. And I don't think you can argue with that.
I can.
I just don't.
I can and I will.
No, and don't say those 3 words. Don't say the 3 words.
I'm
I
not
know
gonna
exactly...
say. I'm not gonna say 3 words. I'm gonna say 4. The Dark Knight
Don't
Rises.
say no.
Yeah, because that film is terrible. It's awful, and I don't understand how you can argue that Tenet is worse. Because Tenet Tenet at least gives you something. It might be a bit of a mess and difficult to understand for you, but it's better than the absolute rushed mixed message mess that is The Dark Knight Rises. And disappointment. I feel like that's higher up, the fact that that's disappointing.
I would rather feel disappointment from a film than come out and go, I have no idea what just happened. I feel nothing.
But what? So go on. No, go on.
Here's the thing. You're going to argue that The Dark Knight Rises is a worse film than Tenet.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
And The Dark Knight Rises, I'm not going to sit here and say that Dark Knight Rises is an amazing film, because it's just not, and everyone knows it's not. But The Dark Knight Rises still makes me feel something.
Disappointment.
And not just disappointment.
Like you wasted your time.
No.
Just the absolute lack of hope in life.
That might not have been the film, might have just been the day. The Dark Knight Rises is a Batman film, which already puts it as a plus. Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it is.
No, stop. Batman is in this film for 46 minutes, and it's 2
you know
hours
what?
and 44.
And you know what? That's fine.
Just watch a different film. You could watch a different film in the time that he's not in this film.
Okay, right. So here's what I'm going to do. Why is The Dark Knight Rises such a bad film?
Right. So,
Oh, God.
because it's just a mess. Thematically, it's a mess. Because Christopher Nolan always wants to put themes and messages and all of that sort of thing in his films. And then you get to Dark Knight Rises, and it kind of sets up one idea, and then just does the opposite. If it had just gotten halfway with it, okay. And then stopped that, it's still bad, but no. So, essentially, he's retelling A Tale of Two Cities. And I think a lot of reviews picked up on that, and it's all about like the French Revolution and things like that. A lot of reviews at the time were like that he's just doing that. Except it's just completely messed. So the main theme that he has running through it is about truth versus the saving lie, I think is what pretty much everyone said at the time. So, the start of the film, you've got the lie around Harvey Dent coming out. You've got the truth about Rachel's letter kind of breaks them apart. So it's like, oh, the saving lie is a bad thing, and you should always know the truth, kind of thing. And yet at the end, you've got Batman being like, oh, I'm out, and then he's not actually dead at the end. And it's like, okay, but you just did the opposite at the end of the film after you spent the entire runtime saying that that's a bad thing, and then you've done it anyway. It doesn't really make any sense. And then also with the use of the Dent Act is very clearly the Patriot Act, I think, right? It's what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout a lot of the film, it's very clear we're supposed to be against it. It's, you know, that's kind of what they're going for, and yet you have a scene in the film where Catwoman uses it, and that's the only way she survives the film, is by using that to her advantage. And we don't see that go badly in any way. We don't see that, like, the fallout of that being bad. It's the only time, really, we see it, and it's like, oh, it's a good thing. Even though you've got characters saying how bad it is. It's shown to be an effective way of stopping organised crime. And did they mention, like, the prisons are overcrowded and they have to put men and women in the same cell sometimes? But obviously that's bad. But at no point have they gone, oh, right, they're that focused on arresting as many people as they can that they're arresting the wrong people. No one innocent actually gets arrested. Obviously, the conditions of the prison, not good. But it's like, oh, right, okay. Well, they haven't done anything, like, really, really bad outside of that. The Dent Act itself hasn't caused that issue. And then you have Bane's plan of, like, overthrowing the people in power and the rich. But it's mainly focused on the rich. And yet, the only scene that we have where the rich people are and the people in power aren't doing a good thing is when some guy tries to steal Bruce Wayne's company off of him, which is just the rich annoying the rich and not actually doing anything bad to the poor or, you know, the middle class or like anyone below them. So that kind of just doesn't really make any. It doesn't really tie in. And it's just a mess. And then, as well, on top of that, like, it feels flat just in general. I mean, I'm not getting totally into. Batman's only in this film for 46 minutes of this Batman film, because I feel like that's an obvious point. I think my last and main point for The Dark Knight Rises really is it's the capping off of a trilogy, right? I remember seeing this film when it came out. It's the same year as The Avengers, right? 2012. It was a big year for superhero films, having the start of what was basically like the start of the MCU, and then you're moving into like DC are capping off their big, huge, billion-dollar like franchise at that point. And then you come out of it, and nothing's really changed thematically. Yeah, okay, Batman's retired. That's pretty much it. Because at the end of The Dark Knight, he's like, oh, I'm gonna have to go on the run and not be Batman anymore because that Batman's bad thing. And then you get to the end of this one, it's like, well, he's gone again. He was back for a bit and he's gone again. Nothing else has changed really. He's gone nonetheless. Yes, I guess he's happy now. Sure. That could have been summed up in a post-credit scene of the previous film. It just didn't. I came out of that film like, well, what was the point? Nothing changed. Nothing happened. As you were saying about Us, your favorite film in the whole world. Nothing happens. You come out of that. It might not necessarily be true in that literally nothing happens, but you come out of it and go, if I didn't see that film and the previous film was the end, if they only made two films, what am I missing? What would I miss out on? And nothing at all.
I'm not going to come out here and try and defend The Dark Knight Rises, because I will agree with you in many ways that The Dark Knight Rises is a film that is all over. But I think the main thing here is that while thematically The Dark Knight Rises is all over the place, I think in terms of watchability, I feel like The Dark Knight Rises is far more watchable than Tenet is.
No.
I will say, yeah, I think The Dark Knight, if you strip back thematic exploration in both films, because obviously all films try to explore themes.
Yeah.
I think if you strip back both films of all their themes and all of their suggestions and etc., I feel like The Dark Knight Rises is a far easier watch.
No.
Yes.
It's just not. I
Yes.
can't.
If you're not delving in, if you're not delving into
no,
the,
I'm not. I feel we can take a step back. I won't be delving into it. Into themes.
Yeah. So if you're not doing that, if nothing else, The Dark Knight Rises is a very simple film of Batman is facing big strong man who he can't defeat, and he's having to go, oh my god, I can't do this. I can't do it. Everyone I thought I was, I'm not.
Uh-huh.
And do you know what? That's kind of interesting.
That's kind of interesting. If he was in it.
If we strip back Tenet of all of its themes, what is it? Still a jumbled mess.
No, it's
still
it
a
all
jumbled
fits together
mess.
And makes sense.
Because it's not Tenet's themes that make it an issue. It's everything else about it, and it's complete.
I cannot disagree more than that. The fact that it's this episode that's, out of all the other stuff we've had to talk about so far, this is the one where I'm borderline offended that you're saying these words out loud. Like, I just don't. I can't see where you're coming from that. I know you're saying there's nothing there, but there so is. I can't say like the first time I watched that film, I was sat in the cinema like, oh, the themes of this like, no, I was sat there and I really enjoyed every second of it.
But did you enjoy every second of it because you were excited for it, or because it's an exciting film?
What? Right. What? The difference there being what?
If you're excited for a film, you're going to go into it, and honestly, the biggest load of rubbish could be put in front of you, and you know what? You might come out and go, that was amazing. And then you sit and you go, that was not that good. A film, you go into a film and it excites you, is a film grabbing you and going, look, this is exciting, you're going to enjoy this, I'm going to take you through this story, and it's going to be an incredible experience. Tenet doesn't do that.
It did for me.
There's literally a moment
me, it did.
where... But I don't think you could argue that it's not Nolan's worst film. I just don't think you can.
Rises.
There's a moment in the film where after they've done the car chase for the first time and they've got the fire trucks and everything like that.
Best scene in the film.
Sure, it's a cool scene, not that good, you know.
What?
And the protagonist, as he's called,
is,
you know, lazy. Or sorry, an attempt to be clever. An attempt to be clever. He goes, what just happened? They knew our every move. And do you know what a man says to his face? A man turns to him and literally says, written down quote for quote, half of his team moved forward through the event, half moved backwards, knowing everything that happens. How? What? Why? Tell me why. Tell me how. No, I won't do that, actually. No, you've just got to sit there and accept that that's the reality of this.
It's a temporal pincer maneuver.
Oh, yeah, exactly, because uranium. What?
Are you right?
At least when Batman's feeling sad in a hole in The Dark Knight Rises, I can go, Batman's sad in a hole, and Bane said the line that he was actually the real darkness man. You know, at least I can accept that. But in this film, there's just so many moments where they go, just understand it. Go on.
Yeah, but again, that makes sense. Right, the protagonist doesn't understand it. He's not a scientist. Neither am I. I don't know. Neither are you.
But the easiest way I can explain Tenet is, so picture this. You're at a party. You're having a lovely time. You're very excited for this party. You're excited that everyone's there and everyone's having a nice time. And you find out that the host has actually booked a magician. Booked a magician, and you got to him, and you go, oh, I really like magic. And they go, well, that's good. I can do magic for you. I can do magic. And they do all their card tricks and everything. You're very excited. You know, planes crashing into buildings. Very excited. And they go, pick a card. And you go, oh my God, I can't wait. You pick a card, and they go, look at it. Don't show anyone. Don't show me. And you look at it. You put it back, and they do lots of fancy stuff, and they go, woo, card tricks. And then they go, is this your card? And you go, no, it's not. And they go, Yeah, it is! Suck it up! That's your card. And that's that. That's Tenet. That is Tenet. You go in and you go, this is... I'm so excited for this. Oh my God, Christopher Nolan has released a film. Oh my God, it looks really cool. It's dealing with timey-wimey things again. Oh my God, Christopher Nolan. Oh my God, a plane just crashed into the building. And then you come out and you go, what? What? What?
No, but
I don't know if I like magicians anymore.
Okay, first off, how long did it take you to come up with that? Was that actually why we were late starting filming? Because you were sat there writing this down?
Just thinking about it's actually just a traumatic experience I've had with magicians.
But no, it's not like I was only like, plane, and then like, ooh, backwards, and that was the only reason why I was enjoying the film. There's so much about this film that I love, and I guess it just doesn't hit for you the same. I assume.
It just doesn't hit. But I feel like this situation is one where you've gone in, you've watched the film, and you've gone, I don't really get that. Let me just try and force myself to. You've got that card, and you've gone, I picked out the Ace of Spades, and they showed me the Five of Hearts. Let me just try and convince myself that I got the Five of Hearts.
Why do you need to know how the time travel works in this film? Because if I don't... so many other time travel stuff. You know, Doctor Who. You've got even you go back as far as like, I don't know, the time machine, like the H.G. Wells. They don't explain how it works because it's not real. What? They can't explain how it works. Interstellar explains how black holes are doing their thing because it's the thing we'd actually have looked into.
And you know what? That's fine. But none of those other things ground themselves in reality like this or take themselves nearly as seriously as Tenet. Tenet is a film that tries to take itself so seriously that it's called its main character the protagonist because we're all spies. We can't know each other's names, and they say pretentious things like no small talk, nothing to reveal who we are or what we do. You know, it's just so... It feels like a film that's trying so hard to impress with its oh, look, this is a mystical backwards thing. That because it's grounded itself in reality... all of the backwards stuff and the complete lack of explanation, or just the brushing over explanation in reality, because right at the beginning we do get told that, it's a radioactive particle, blah, 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 found in Russia, because of course, Russia.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that did hit a little bit, because I was like, it's Russia with British ties. Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
But, you know, because it's trying to ground itself in reality and take itself so seriously that it just makes it fall flat. And there's all this other spy stuff that is really cool. You know, plenty of cool stuff, plenty of classic spy stuff. He goes and meets a contact in a restaurant, and he does the painting thing. That's really cool, where he takes the painting and he goes, it's not a real thing. And it's written really well, that scene. And I'm not even going to try and butcher it by, you know, half knowing all of the words. And it's written really well. And then you just... And then, you know, he breaks into the house in India and does the cool hold-up bit. That's really cool. It's a spy thing. And then all the backwards stuff happens. And it suddenly goes, right, we've done all that. We've done all the serious stuff. It's really serious. You're engaged. Now, please, just close your eyes and accept what's about to happen while we fire a gun backwards.
I know, it's no good me saying it to you, because, like, this is not a good enough reason for you. It's just the MacGuffin. It's what it does. Because they call it uranium for most of the film, and then you have the reveal. It's like, that ain't uranium, it's something else. And, okay, that's how you get away with not having to explain time travel. Because,
that's lazy.
You know. But how... Right, okay. You get brought in to do have another go at the script. How do you explain it?
No. We both know that I am not good at writing or making films. Here's the thing, and I don't intend to ever. But here's the thing: if you don't have a digestible, roundabout way, and not even roundabout, an intellectual, digestible way to explain the backwards thing, don't try explain it at all. And I think because, like you say, we're on that journey with the protagonist in trying to understand this. That's the story. A lot of it is him trying to work it out as we are.
Yeah.
they shoehorn in explanations that don't make sense. And it just makes me go, I have no idea what is happening. I have no idea why that works. And it just feels messy. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to see a Chris Nolan spy film that's just the spy bit. Get rid of the time stuff, just do gritty spy stuff, and I guarantee you it will be amazing. But it just feels like he went, I want to make a spy film, and I want to make a film that's backwards. Let's just put them together. There's your thing. And it just feels like the backwards thing was sort of put in as a gimmick that wasn't explained.
I mean, yeah, because Nolan's always had to think about time, hasn't he? Always, in pretty much every single film, he does his time stuff. Even with Dunkirk, which I felt was a bit like, just make the film. You know, the rest of that film amazing, but
I mean, even you know, I will reiterate here: Christopher Nolan is not a bad filmmaker. Christopher Nolan makes better films than I could ever dream of. Tenet is just the worst of them. And there's plenty of other films out there.
I still can't agree with it. I just you haven't even made a slight dent in my belief that this film is not. I'm not saying it's his best. It's my favorite. I can separate the two, but The Dark Knight Rises is just so much worse. Again, you're trying to tell me that a film that I just don't ever want to see again. Up there with Logan in terms of me not wanting to rewatch a film and then having to for the podcast. To Tenet, which, like I said, I could just watch whenever. I could be in any mood and I could put this film on. And in fairness, I'm probably doing myself a disservice here and handing it to you at this point by saying this does kind of combine two of my favorite things, and in that being like sci-fi and in time travel stuff and like Bond movies. He very clearly wants to do not necessarily a Bond movie, but something very similar to that. Like, he paid homage to it in Inception, in the snow stuff, and then this film, pretty much, which made me sit there and go, you know what? If they ever cast someone who wasn't like British, John David Washington could do pretty well. He did really well. Like, he's great in this film. I've seen a lot of reviews that are basically saying he's bland and really not good in this film, and I think he's absolutely perfect for it.
I think John David Washington is not the issue with this film.
You're purely centered on just the plot, right? Or how the narrative is told.
It's not even the plot. I think the idea is very interesting. And I think the filmmaking is brilliant. I think some of the set pieces are wonderful. But I just think it is very messy. And it felt like a film where the script could have done with another year being workshopped, being looked through, just making sure that it's not too out there. And I think that's the thing. And it is genuinely, I've said it before, but I genuinely feel like this film feels like chronologically in Christopher Nolan's filmmaking timeline should come before the last 3-4 films he's made. It feels like a experiment with time. And obviously Memento is the first experiment with time. But I think if we're going off recent, Inception is especially of our generation. Inception is the film that people of our generation associate with Chris Nolan first. And I think Tenet feels like more of a film that should have come out before Inception, because Inception feels far more tailored and far more created, if you understand what I mean. It feels far more as though it has been sculpted in a way that is digestible and understandable.
More like refined.
Whereas Tenet feels to me like a film that was, the idea was very exciting and everyone got very excited about the idea, so we rushed in and wrote a script and made the film. And obviously that's not how it works. That's just how it feels to me. And because of that, I just can't say that it's anything other than Nolan's worst film. It feels like a test to see if people like that sort of idea before we do Inception and before we do Interstellar. And so, of a good bunch, it has to be at the bottom, unfortunately for me. But I don't think I'm gonna push or change your opinion.
I don't. I was gonna say I'm gonna sum up with my 3 points, and I can already tell you at the start of that you've not changed a single thing. So I think firstly is that this film, yeah, it can be confusing. So like you said that you thought somehow that Robert Pattinson was their kid. I don't understand how you came to that conclusion personally. Especially when they say at the end who he is. But all right. You're just pulling faces at me. And I think that the Dark Knight Rises is his worst film, and that's something that even you can't really argue with too much, as much as you have, to the extent that I clearly haven't swayed you. But because that film had to juggle capping off a trilogy, it had to deal with Heath Ledger's passing, which meant the script had to change last minute. And then they also had to make a good film at the end of the day, and they ended up producing a film that was too long, messy, all in all a disappointing experience when compared to his other films, not just comparing it to the trilogy. And you've said that Tenet's his worst film, and I think that's just because you're coming at it from the wrong angle. Whereas where Interstellar is more of a scientific approach. Like you said, there's been papers written using that film as reference and things like that. And Inception was, because it's dreams, there isn't necessarily a set science to that, so they can kind of make up their own thing. And because it's halfway in between the two, where it's, okay, we know that theoretically that is sort of impossible, but also sort of possible depending on how you're looking at it. And Interstellar touched on similar themes. I feel like you've kind of come into this expecting Interstellar, in that there's a definite, this is explain how it works, whereas this film clearly is going more of a, let's take a bit of that, and it's an action film. Just looking at this film from, the cover, as it were, it's just taking a bit of Interstellar and Inception, making it an action film, and oh, that's fun. Whereas if you look deeper into it, it's more of an artistic experiment that focuses on having to rewatch the film and pick up little bits, but it's more digestible than some of his earlier work, or at least I find it more digestible than some of his earlier work, with Memento. And it comparing that to The Dark Knight Rises, that rushed mixed message mess thematically, whereas at least Tenet I can sit down and watch and enjoy. So there's me.
I take your points. I would say that I think it might be that I might have come at Tenet in the wrong way, but I still stand that I think Tenet is Nolan's worst film. I think Tenet is a film that wanted to be a spy film and wanted to be a sci-fi film at the same time, and I would fully accept that. And I don't think I came into the film, like you say, wanting Interstellar. I think if at the beginning of the film they hadn't tried to explain the time situation, I would have taken it as was. But there was a lazy or unmastered attempt, or unrefined attempt to explain this sci-fi element, which fell so flat that it just left me throughout the rest of the film feeling disjointed. I think the film's geographical jumps also don't help with that, but I think without this failed attempt to explain the so-called science behind it all, it wouldn't feel so difficult, I would say. I think equally, The Dark Knight Rises, I will take your point. Dark Knight Rises is a terrible film. I'm never going to say The Dark Knight Rises is a great film, or even a good one. But I think on any day, I would choose to watch The Dark Knight Rises over Tenet. Tenet is a film that I have to push myself to watch, and I did have to push myself to watch for this, purely because it is almost a 2-hour glaze over fest. I gave it my best shot, and I watched, and until we got to the explanation, I almost glazed over. because at that point the film loses me, and then in its other messiness, I'm gone. And I think finally, I think there should be an expectation that directors continue to improve. I'm not saying directors can't explore, but I think from a director who made Memento and The Dark Knight, we didn't even touch on The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, and even Dunkirk, to then come and make Tenet a film that was, or at least left me, and I know it left others because I was there with others who felt the experience the same way I did, left others feeling so flat and unbothered, even a sense of nothingness. It can't be anything other than Nolan's worst film.
I mean, I know the argument, as it were, is over, but I kind of just want to say I think I can't really, because obviously it's just down to like opinion, right, at this point. But where you say you were with other people when you saw it, and you all kind of came out with the same. See, with me, we all came out. There was 3 or 4 of us, and we all came out with the same. Like that was great, that was amazing, and we've all seen it a lot since. We quote it. It's one of these films that we quote. The amount of times we'll be out somewhere, one of us will come back, and then one of us will be like, "I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago." I love that. I guess it's just I don't know. I really don't.
I think the case is that right now we can't split each other. So it might be that we need viewers to split us, or listeners to split us for us.
Yeah, because
so I think
not even at the minute.
I think we might have to call this one a draw.
Oh,
because I'm not budging, and you're
neither
not budging.
am I. So how do we do it? Are we need no points or both points?
1 point each.
1 point each.
We're both getting a point extra.
3-3.
It is 3-3.
Ooh.
And here's the thing. I think with this, we both have incredibly strong opinions. Neither of us are willing to budge. But let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. Is Tenet Nolan's worst film?
If you're listening to this on Spotify, there should be a poll where you can
vote. Or does something else take that crown? It's certainly a tough one. But let us know on our social media. You can follow us over on our social media, which are...
On Twitter, it's @DisputePod, and on Instagram, it's Directorial_Disputes. And I believe we have a TikTok.
We do. Follow us over on TikTok @DisputePod as well, where we'll be posting short clips for you to get all of your lovely Directorial Disputes knowledge and interest. But for now, that is 3-3.
It is.
Oh, it's exciting.
We're getting close to the end of the season.
We are, and next week is definitely going to be it's going to be an interesting
one. I think I've got next week in the bag, but after this, I really don't know. It could end up being 2 draws in a row. I don't know.
We'll come down to the Christmas special. But for now, we will see you next week.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.